Hello, B-Ball world. Welcome back to the B-Ball Blues Show. We are here again. I am the captain of this ship, Neil D-A-W-G, and I'm joined again as I am joined in life in our total rainbowness by Seth Bam Clark. Welcome back, Seth Doggy.
Oh man, that the echo is making me think like you're a funeral announcer or something.
Yeah.
I'm joined again in death as in life.
The echo is pretty bad, actually.
Yeah, dude, it is, man. But you know what? It is what it is, man.
True enough.
It's
I mean, do you think we should live with it? Try to
man,
fix
Neil
it?
Dog. It's 2020, man. You just
Yeah,
live with
right. We
things,
all live
dude.
with
Come on, man.
everything. So
Yeah, right. This
makes
isn't
us.
the
It
before
does make
time.
us sound like we're on a stage or like out on the field. You know what I mean? You hear
Yeah,
the
right.
echo when they do the announcements.
Yeah,
Starting
all
in
right.
left field.
Yeah. Our booming voices across the land.
So real quickly before we bring our guests in, I got to tell you, because you can't see it, blind
No, I
mofo.
can't see it. I can't see it. I can't see it.
I have a different look going, and I am so much
Oh,
more relaxed. I got on two levels, by the way. But one, I'm recording from my computer. I always have the computer on recording, but I've been doing the show on my iPad, and I sit basically where you sit when you're here at my house, and my coffee table, pulls up to table level. So I would pull that up and set the iPad up there. But I didn't have any ability to move the iPad. So to get where I'm looking into the iPad, I had to sit up on the edge of the seat, like leaning on the table the whole show, and it would get so uncomfortable after an hour. You know what I mean? And so
Cut it
I
off, Timmy. I gotta go. Cut it off,
yeah,
Timmy.
right. So I started testing with the volume using my computer, and it doesn't sound to me any different really than my iPad. And with it's a laptop, so I could move the camera. So now I'm relaxed, sitting back in the chair. I got Huggy Bear sitting here on my lap. When I first started doing the show, Huggy
Huggy,
Bear used to be my
Huggy,
iPhone
Huggy,
stand.
Huggy Bear was like a male character in
It's
God, what was that?
Starsky and
Spencer.
Hutch.
Yeah,
Starsky
there
and
you
Hutch. Yeah. But I
little black dude, man. You got a little black man sitting on your lap, dude. Come on now.
no, it's a teddy bear, stuffed animal,
Yeah,
and,
you know.
and it's wearing a little shirt. If I remember right, says "Hug Me." I don't know if that's accurate or not. I'll try to get it in a better spot. But I got it actually volunteering at a blind Easter egg hunt. They had beeper Easter eggs or whatever, and they were giving them out to the kids. So I made them give me one too. So
Oh, we
I
can make all sorts of fun
I
jokes
know
about the
we're
blind
not
Easter egg
we're
hunt.
not
Yeah,
going
but you know we could.
to.
We could.
But I made them give me a bear. I don't have an iPhone stand, and when I started recording the show, I used Huggy Bear to hold my iPhone. So Huggy Bear's always been part of the show. But also, the other day my power was out for like 8 hours, and so I spent the time going through the old part of my closet, the shirts that I had to stop wearing because I had grown out of them, unfortunately. But in the last several months, I got my weight back down to where I could wear large shirts again. But I hadn't gone through any of my old large stuff. I was wearing baggy shirts, whatever. So I went and pulled out all these. I have six. This shirt I have on now, I have no idea what color it is, but I have six of them that all feel exactly the same. I got three of them from one ex girlfriend and three from another. I don't know which three came from which one, and I don't know what ones I'm wearing. But I finally have some different shirts to mix in. I had like 5 shirts I always wore when I did the show. And I finally have more choices. So all kinds of new looks. Seth, I'm very excited. So maybe somebody can let us know after the show what color my new shirt is. New,
You're actually wearing a striped shirt, and it's blue and gray.
awesome. Blue's kind of my color. I look good in blue. that's
Uh,
my.
but
It
That's,
suits you. That shirt suits you a lot.
oh, thank you, thank you. Well, that's a good time to introduce one of our two guests from the Lonestar Roadrunners. We have Whitney Marin. Did I say it right this time?
Yes, you did.
Good, awesome.
It's very rare somebody says my name right. So you did.
Whitney Marin. It corrected me because I got a few things. We're going to get to know you a little bit before we dive into what we're here for the show. But before, I know he's probably getting ready to punch me in the face. I'd like to bring in a Hall of Famer in the NBBA, a longtime teammate of Seth and mine.
In a Hall of Famer in our heart.
God.
Long time great
Are you
friend.
about to throw up on the air? Jesus.
Long time great friend of ours, Danny Foppiano. Welcome in, Fop Dog.
What's up, boys and girls? Glad to be here.
Ain't nothing.
I'm a little nauseous from that Seth comment, but hey.
Hey, I'm just glad that Neil allowed me to be on with you. When Eric was on, he didn't allow me to be on. So, I'm just glad, man, that I get to rub shoulders with the Hall of Famers and stuff.
Oh, come on.
How it is, man.
I got to pick my spots with Seth Dog. So before we're going to have a conversation. There many times inside the NBBA, the conversation of rule changes as far as how we could change things, mostly to improve the game defensively, have come up. And one of those rule proposals, not once but twice, has been to add a seventh player. Danny has submitted that rule, I believe, both times. And it's been shot down both times. But when we had Tim on in the last show, it came up just in a casual conversation. So I figured it'd be a good time to kind of have a little round table. Whitney reached out, said she would like to chime in and talk about this with us. So we're going to dive into that in just a little bit. But Whitney, I'd like to find out a little bit about you. Seth and Danny and I know each other really well, but this is my first time getting to know you. So how did you find beat baseball? How did you end up on the Lonestar Roadrunners?
I actually found out about b-ball back in 2012. I had did a job thing at the lighthouse for work, and that's how I was introduced to b-ball.
Don't tell me Richie Flores was involved.
No,
okay.
No.
He seems to have gotten everybody in Texas playing b-ball.
No, the reason I found out about it is the people that I worked with at the time. His name's Dennis. He's the one that introduced me, and Frank, and they're the ones introduced me at the beginning. But I did it for a little bit, for like 6 months. That year, I started playing a little bit in 2012 and stopped playing in the beginning of 13 due to work. And so I actually came back to playing in 18. The Roadrunners did a game with Tyler. Tyler came up here to play, so I got to play when they did that tournament. And then I practiced a little bit with them, but couldn't actually play at the time. And last year, November, is when I actually came back to stay with the Roadrunners. So the end of November will be a year that I'll be playing with them. Because I really didn't know much about b-ball. But getting to know the sport and being able to be visually impaired and playing is so awesome. I actually went to Indianapolis in July, the end of July, and I got to meet a lot of different people. And it was so awesome. My first time going and playing, and I had a good time.
Excellent.
That was the first. That was the first tournament you had gone to.
Yes, the first actual big tournaments I actually went to, and I met people from I met people from there. I met people from San Antonio. I just met a lot of different people, and hearing them and how they love to play, it actually felt good because I really didn't know nobody but besides the people that played on my team. And,
Right.
get to know their backgrounds of how they became visually impaired or blind was actually really cool,
Ha-
because I've always played sports, so this is actually a good sport I love to play.
Are you familiar with Wool, the women of our league? I'm sure you are if you're familiar with the
Yes,
show.
I actually am. I tried reaching out to them about actually playing on the girls team as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm still getting in contact with them. I've already submitted an application with them, so I'm just
All right.
waiting for a call back.
All right.
So
Well,
What did
I'll,
you said you played other sports? What other sports did you play?
I've actually played sports, soccer growing up. I did tennis, I did track, cross country, and this wasn't through like this was like through school.
Right.
So I loved playing sports. It's always been my thing since I was little. So
Have you
getting to
been visually impaired your whole life, or did that happen later on?
when I was born, I have a condition that's called microphthalmia, which is the pupil of the eye didn't grow fully.
Hmm.
So they made me not. They said I could never see out of my right eye.
well, I got some friends with Wool, so I'll give them a shout and have them get in contact with you, get you involved. I'm a big supporter of the women of our league. So
I've heard of people playing, and I met somebody who plays on that team, and she really likes it. Her name's Crystal.
excellent. All right. Well, let's dive into our conversation about adding a seventh player. The echo, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot of echo.
I mean, I don't hear it, so that's weird.
Man, it must be Danny's the problem.
Yeah, I must be. That's not the first time I've been told that.
We've never told you that. I'm thinking, from the interaction Whitney and I have had through email, I think she and I are kind of in the same place where we're kind of on the fence where we see both positive and negative with it. Since Seth is in favor and you proposed the rule, Danny, I'm going to let you kind of go ahead and lay out, what you like about it and why you proposed it. And, Seth, let the two of you kind of take the lead. And then Whitney and I could kind of jump in, as the conversation goes.
Sounds cool, yeah. So I'm playing this game since 1984, and then my first World Series was 87. And one thing I realized over the 30-plus years I've been playing is that whoever has the best pitcher has the best chance of winning because they put the ball in play a lot better than everybody else. So it gets frustrating over the years that certain pitchers you have on your team are not making as clean contact as others, and you're losing games because they just literally just out-hit you.
Oh, I love that politically correct term, frustrating.
All right, basically, shocked and irate. Yeah, I'm trying to be, not trying to make I'm trying not to make enemies. Or any more enemies, I should say. So I always just kept analyzing the game, and I always loved defense. And I just say, why can't we balance out this game by how can we strengthen the defense? And when you only have 6 people defending that whole field, there's a lot of area where balls could be scored within.
Yeah.
So I figured, why not try to add one more player? If it was up to me, I'd have 2 more. I'd go as high as 8, but obviously we're trying to get 7 in first. But
All right.
I'm trying to make the game be a little more balanced, where every single ball is put in play, even if it's fairly decent. people have a chance to make the put out. You could configure 7 people. If a guy's a dead pull hitter, you can put 5 people on that side of the field as long as you communicate properly and cut down power alleys and just have a defensive strategy. Like regular MLB's got shifts, so why can't we have shifts in beat ball and have more bodies in the areas where we think people hit?
Well, in all fairness, we can have shifts in beat ball. So don't, for the audience, don't make it sound like that can't. I mean, on the dogs, we had shifts. You know that.
Well, that's what I always wanted to have. We always played the diamond on the strong side, and have 2 guys on the off field.
Well, we don't even need to lay it out right now. I'm just saying you can do shifts.
Of course you can, but I think the more bodies,
the 7th player gives you more options. I'm not arguing that.
Yeah.
We can't say that we're not doing shifts now. That's all.
Right. You could just do more. Your shifts could be more effective. You wouldn't have to.
Yeah.
You could,
Absolutely.
line them up.
Not arguing that. Yeah.
More
and my point for that 7th man too, though, even though I say you could do shifts, the better pitchers can move the ball around. So you could set up in a shift, and then your better pitcher is able to outmaneuver the shift. So if you have 7 people, you can still stack one part of the field where you think the guy's going to go more often than not, but you're not leaving yourself totally naked on the other side because you have that 7th man to cover some more ground too.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that was more about the shifting.
I mean, like you said, it's a lot of ground out there to cover, and if we could all see and weren't wearing blindfolds, obviously 6 people can easily cover that ground for the most part. But in a sport where we're seeing 15, 20 run games and stuff like that, to allow rules to just continue where the offense is just roll and roll and roll into this huge, geographic space that is the actual field. If you had another player, again, you could knock down, 4 or 5 more runs a game. And the question comes in, do you want a more competitive game through defense, or do you want a more competitive game through offense? And we've done the offensive thing
for 45 years.
Right.
In all fairness.
And it's now so ridiculous, right? I mean, it's still
it's always been an offensive game. I've been saying this since the 90s. There's no other sport that I can think of where the best of the best are successful 70, sometimes 80% of the time.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Shaquille O'Neal wasn't 80% shooting from the floor. You know what I mean? It's like there's no sport I could think of where percentages are so high on the offense with the most successful players.
Even though it's good that y'all want to add a 7th player, you gotta also think about the fact that it's already kind of a dangerous sport because we can't see. Even though with the ball makes noise and stuff, you still gotta see. It's a little bit more dangerous, more at risk, adding a different player to the team because of the fact that we already have 6 people. Whenever we run, whenever our spotters are calling out numbers and we run to our numbers, it gives us not as much space in between the people.
Well,
numbers.
Yeah. I mean,
so you got to think about it like that.
Yeah,
well, that totally makes sense. However, the newer people to the game don't have the experience as the veterans in the game. So the more you play this game and the more you learn this game, you have a better field awareness and communicate. And a lot of people don't teach this game properly. People show up and play beat baseball.
Yeah,
you need to be able to link yourself up with people that can communicate to you how to make the game better for you and your team. The Dogs are one of the best teams at it, at communication.
Yeah,
we could have 5 guys 15 feet apart and not hit each other just because we know how to talk to each other, and people have zone integrity is a term we use.
Right.
You know your angles and your lines because we've been around long enough to establish that.
Yeah, and that's true. Like you said, there are new people, not to people that know how to really play it good, like the people that are veterans. But to me, if you're gonna add another person, you need to add another spotter to even it out.
I don't agree with that.
How I see it, because me who can actually see it and how it's being played. If you add a seventh player and add another spotter, that spotter is a backup for whatever the other two spotters don't see with that seventh player. Like that's how I see it, because I can see and I see how it's being played on my point of view, because that extra spotter is to say, what if one of the spotters misses something from that seventh player?
You know, as you bring that up, when you first said that, I was like Neil, and I'm like, you know, I wouldn't be in favor of that. But if you're like thinking about it, you could add a third spotter, and you know, obviously this all brings up the problem of finding more people, right? Which is a problem. But you could have a third spotter that is specifically there to call off collisions, who does nothing else but call off collisions.
Yeah, not numbers.
Right. They don't call off any numbers. They don't call anything like that. They can't do anything except call off collisions. And you know, that would, you know, I think you could, you know, accomplish it with two spotters. Not everybody has to use two spotters, and they don't, you know, but I do think you could do that if there was a problem. I just don't think there would be a problem with 7 players out there, just because there is so much extra space. Now, it does get a little dicey if you're playing teams that don't hit as hard, right? Because now you're not using the deep balls. You know, people aren't hitting 180 feet and stuff like that. It's a more condensed field. And so as you get 7 people closer around, let's say in the base, you know, at the base depth, the area does get more clogged. So I can see that.
I want to jump in on that. I've been trying to jump in on that part since Vanessa talked. I'm sorry, Whitney talked. I'm sorry about that. I'm terrible with names.
It's okay. I've been called different names, so I'm used to it.
Oh, you'll be called a third name before the end of the day. So
I'll get the last name right though.
You should at least get close with the name. Whitney and Vanessa, I'm not.
If you called it Brittany, I'd say that makes sense. So they rhyme at least.
I have no idea. When I go wrong on names, I have no idea where it comes. I shouldn't even admit this because it's so ridiculous. I was talking to Seth like a week ago, and we were talking about George Floyd. And I called him George Foreman. And where the hell? I feel so stupid, but it's not a lack of. I don't know where that. I haven't thought of George Foreman in 20 years. You know, I don't know where that comes from. It's so stupid. It's embarrassing. But going back to the point about not doing it because of congestion. I'm totally blind. I played the game for 23 years. I'll never ever not move forward because it might be more dangerous or too dangerous. If there was a clear danger, I don't want anybody getting hurt, but every single team out there with their players and their spotters have a responsibility to get that. Somebody's like touching their microphone or something.
Somebody's in a windstorm
or something. Yeah,
it's all good. Go ahead, Neil.
But every team has a responsibility to, learn their lanes, learn, like Danny said, the zone integrity. Like whether there's 7, 10, it doesn't matter. It's like that stuff every team has to figure out. We can't not go forward because we're blind and it could be dangerous. I'll never ever vote for that.
I
also,
think
I'll just point out one other thing, though. It is this also this formation that everybody uses, because you do have all these crossing lines, right?
yeah.
And so it's that idea of it's not just zone integrity, but it's also line integrity, making sure you stay on your right level, right, and on your right path.
Right.
But how this new defense is set up, paths cross, and so there's just more contact points. But again, you could stick a seventh player out deep
That's
beyond all of that,
we
and they
have,
would never even have to come anywhere in contact with it. That seventh player could strictly just be a rover or whatever.
That's kind of my point too. Like, we can't assume how any team would do this. We know
Right.
how you and I
Right.
think a lot alike, so we probably would come up with similar stuff. We have no idea what, just like you said, somebody might just leave somebody out in front of the home run line and move them around depending on where their power looks like. Who knows what people will do. So I don't worry about that. What my biggest concern about it then and now would be, honestly, it's really my only concern for it, is not every team has more than like 8 players. You know what I mean?
That's my other thing too.
Some teams struggle to get to this 5-day tournament with 8, 9 players. And we had a player. I don't know what the fallout would be. I mean, we got teams that got 30 players on them, it seems like at times, which is ridiculous. But that is not the norm. You know what I mean? There's a handful of teams that got too many players. Most teams struggle to get there with enough players. That's my only real concern for it.
And that's what I was saying too, because when we went to Indianapolis, there was a couple of teams that had to get people from other teams to be on their team to be able to actually have backup players.
The Aztec Warriors were begging for players leading right up to the tournament. So, I mean, this is a different year, so we're probably comparing, it's a COVID year, so struggling to get play. We're comparing apples to oranges. But I know from serving on the tournament committee for many years, almost 20 years, that not every team gets there easily with players. So,
just for argument's sake, though, when I proposed this last time, I actually specifically went into the rosters for that year's World Series. There was one team that had under 10 players.
Well, and I'm aware with or feel that argument of the seventh player, putting a strain on the actual people out there. But once you did it, right, the norm would change, right? So people would start looking for 7 players, and eventually it might be hard for a minute, but eventually it would normalize out where, it just became natural that you had to have 7 players.
Yeah.
So I have a question.
And some other teams that have player 15, 16, 17, 18, they, you know what, there's 7 people, I'm never going to play. Let me go play. They might move locations of teams to actually get some playing time.
You saying that only one team had less than 10 players helps narrow that argument for me. But
that was that one particular World Series. It was Atlanta. Roger Keeney had said he was the one who was downgrading the talking to get down, not to do it.
Right.
And I said, Roger, I already went through the whole roster of all the teams that are coming this year. Your team is the only team that didn't have enough people. So how do you stop the progress of this game for one team out of 25 teams that are going to the World Series, or 22 teams that are going to the World Series?
Yeah,
you're not going to make this a better game because one team. You can't tell me you can't call every other team in the league and get 2 more bodies so you have 10 players.
I got you.
So you're going to not have a rule?
I got you. There's a point I want to make too, but go ahead with your question, Whitney.
So since y'all been playing for a long time, from back then until now, on defense, playing how y'all play now, has anybody ever gotten hurt by bumping into each other while playing?
Yeah, absolutely.
Of course. No doubt.
I mean, for one, I honestly, I feel like that's a different conversation. I don't want to
No, I
dive.
was just wondering.
But no,
just
I'm
because
going to
the whole
answer. I'm going to
seven-
I mean,
answer.
it's a legitimate question.
There have been horrific injuries. The very first, I wasn't a player, but the very first World Series I ever went to in 1986 was in Palo Alto, California. It was held on the Stanford campus, Stanford University, and Houston. That back then they were called the Houston Bombers, and Houston was playing the North Bay Nemesis, and two players on Houston collided. One player dove into another player's like his shoulder area, and it
Ooh.
basically it broke his jaw in like 2 or 3 places. It was a horrific injury. But that was 35 years ago. I've never been around anything like that. But yes, horrible injuries have happened with players colliding, and it's always a danger. But that's a danger whether it's 6 players, again, 7,
Yeah.
8. That danger is never not going to be there.
Yeah, I like the idea where he said that if we do get a 7th player, why don't they play the very back? Like that would be a good idea, because how I see the field set up, sometimes there is an extra room for an extra player up in the front, but like y'all had a good point. When people hit the ball, sometimes it goes further back,
Right.
like way back.
Yes.
So trust me, seeing how people play, it goes all the way back. But if you're gonna do a 7th player to be in that back, you need to make sure there's room in the back for not just a 7th player, but an 8th player. If you're gonna be putting them in the back, but it brings up too. Sometimes not everybody has enough players to have a 7th or
Right.
8th.
Right.
No, that's always going to be a
Player.
problem. But
Yeah.
even worse though is, doesn't adding a 7th player just make the best teams that much better, right? So I mean, as you think about it, like if you give the Dogs a 7th player on defense, or the Thunder a 7th player on defense, that's not necessarily gonna, you're still gonna have the same.
You're not
Thunder
hurting.
dominating.
I don't think any rule change ever is going to hurt the best teams for the most part. You know what I mean? A rule change should be to balance the game. It either balances the game better, gets closer, or it doesn't. You know what I mean? And everybody looks at it differently, obviously. And that's kind of the point I wanted to make. And it was off you, Seth, saying that it's what would become the new norm. Like I was the person who originally proposed moving the tournament to 5 days over 4. And it was because as we're sitting there in the board in the General Assembly arguing over how we're going to fit everything into this longer tournament, growing tournament. It's like there's only one way, guys. We have to space it out further. And it's not like I was the only one who saw it that way. It passed pretty easily. But the point was, there was a lot of argument then. It's like, well, that's more fundraising. It's more time off work, more, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, listen, this is what's best for the game. You know what I mean? And everybody agreed and we moved forward. If a 7th player is what's best for the game, or moving the base out to 105 is what's best for the game, you just got to do it, and people have to adapt. You've always got to do what's best for the game. And I don't know that the 7th player is.
Bringing up the base changing, that was my next thing I was going to say. Why didn't y'all move the bases back from 100 to like 105 or 110? Because like you said, the players that hit the ball and that are still up in the air, by the time we even get a chance for it to drop or be able to catch it, they're already at home plate. Like they're already at the base.
No, you're
so
right.
It's kind of like
that. You make a good argument, but they're 2 different rules, and we're trying. I want to keep the focus on this one rule. It's my bad because I kind of mentioned the base thing, but I in passing, that's a totally different rule. We could do a whole different show on.
Okay.
So
No, actually, if you wanted to
I just
be like,
wanted to bring, just different options of what we can do to make
I
it
hear you.
better,
I
even
agree.
by adding a seventh player.
yeah, no, and you're right, and not to just to answer kind of your question, as you add it out to, let's say, 110, somebody now running 30 bases over you just start to extend it, right? The amount of time and the wear and tear on the players. And base running is actually, I think, the most dangerous thing that you can do while beat ball's going on.
Now
You hurt yourself around the base a lot and stuff like that. But it just kind of is what it is. At least that's one argument against that.
Yeah,
But,
now the way you said it and hearing somebody, like when I mention it, it makes more sense to what you're saying.
right.
Because me thinking about it and stuff, I'm just like, wait, does that make sense? But that's
It
why I
would
wanted to ask.
definitely cut down the scoring, right? It definitely would. And I would always say that it should be an accompaniment. But if we're talking about competitive balance, it might even be better to give the lesser teams 7 defenders while the top teams still have to have 6. But
obviously,
how do you declare everybody other than the top 3 teams in the league? We don't have to wear 7.
Well, I mean, there was a big drop off between
1 through 6 and then 7 through. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's
agree.
not like we have competitive balance throughout.
No, I've argued for we can go off on tangents left and right. I've argued forever that we should be two tiers and should be but people got offended by that. But so we'll leave that one alone. But anyway.
So
the thing is, if y'all want to do 7 people, why don't y'all practice, like get a team or 2, practice how it would be with 7 people to see how it would work out, and then try them to practice it out against each other to see how
what you're saying is right, but honestly, that's usually when these kind of rules, this or any other, gets proposed and gets shot down. That's always what they say. Like I have no doubt that the night I was on the call, the night Danny last proposed this rule and it got shot down. That's how it was. Like, why don't everybody maybe try it at a tournament? So that's always been thrown out there, and I don't know that it's ever been done. But I mean, you're right that it needs to be tried at some point, and there needs to be some evidence that people could bring forth. I guess.
And again,
because I think that's the only way.
The idea is, I'm tracking with you, Whitney, because in the end, it's such a radical change that you have to put some sort of evidence behind it, right? We are theorizing that this will bring the scores more into or competitive balance, but we don't really know that. And if you had, true evidence, that would be good. The other thing that now would always move against anything is we don't talk in the general assemblies anymore, right? Everything is just kind of voted on beforehand, and you will never get big, large structural change like that. It just won't happen.
Yeah.
This conversation is nice for conversation.
And that's where the evidence part comes in, right? If you actually had evidence that you could say, look, the numbers bear out that we can cut off 4 runs a game by this, then you might be able to convince more people.
I don't want us to go down that tangent really, but I said Danny and I had this conversation last night. I hate that so much of the NBBA is now done on conference call because there's no real conversation. It's controlled conversation. And I'm not, this isn't an attack at like Blake and his administration, because it's been going on for a long time now. I hate that so much is done that way, because it's taken away from all the conversation that took place.
Well, I could point that out for a fact.
I'll give you 5 seconds here, 10 seconds there, and you can't argue, you can't make a point, you know, nobody's getting anywhere.
Well, the first time I brought this up for a topic, it was in person, where each team had a representative there, and the vote was it was 9-7 that we lost having a seventh man. I think it was in 2005, and we had a room full of people. Every team that was there had a representative there. It was talked about for 20 minutes, and then it was voted on. And then 2 years ago when we did it again, it was voted on. It was like a landslide against it. It was like 13-2.
See, but that was
we actually discussed it out.
But we didn't discuss it out that year. Right.
That's his point. That's his point.
No, that's my point. It was on a phone conversation. I was given 2 minutes to talk, and then they took a vote, and we lost it was like a landslide. It was like 13-2 against it.
All right. Oh.
So, I think it's good that y'all want to like improve and do things better for the team. And it's not, like, to me, it's like I said, in order for that type of rule change, the only way, like I said, the only way to do it is to practice with the seventh player with 2 different teams and try it out, and have somebody record it and be like I said, hey, this is, this could probably work, because that's the only way, period, whatsoever.
No, you're right. We know you're right, and we know you're right. We're laughing because the problem is there's nowhere to report it now, almost, in a way. It does.
I always forget that it's harder for somebody like I'm still learning the effects of doing things different, being visually impaired. So I'm still getting used to you can't do this, you can't do that.
All right. I want to take this a little bit of a different direction now. We're still talking about the rule. So I want to say let's hypothesize. Like, I use a big word, Seth. Let's hypothesize like George Foreman. But let's say the rules passed. There's a few things. One I just heard from Danny last night that I absolutely hated, and another thought that Darren Keepers from the Pasadena team put out there back when this conversation was held in B-Ball Nation. So Danny had mentioned, I didn't remember this, but one of the modifications that they tried to make to pass this was, instead of having 7 players hit and 7 players field, is just having still 6 players hit and having 2 designated fielders. So having 7 fielders and 6 batters. And I think that is ridiculous. I hate the idea of that. And I hope that would never pass that way. But something that Darren Keepers brought up, and I don't think he's right. The way he put it is, if we went to 7 players, we'd have to go to 7 innings, because like the baseball, softball, whatever, normally you get like 3 outs per player that plays.
That has nothing to do with it. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, and I thought about it later, like in college softball, they play with 9 players and only play 7 innings. So obviously you don't have to do that, but I do like the idea of making it 7 innings if we had 7 players. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, if you're not going to make the game more, if that 7th player doesn't really change the game, then
I don't think a longer game is going to help.
I was going to say,
he's still going to get blown out in 2 innings anyway. That's 7 innings. Nothing.
Yeah.
It's just going to make it longer and more.
Yeah, longer hell.
I wouldn't want to do that.
Too drastic. All right. Do you guys?
Unless you guys unless you can prove to me that it's gonna work, then I ain't got no part of it.
I hear you. All right, fair enough. And length of games at the tournament, especially when you're playing 3 games, is a concern. So I could see that not even getting close to passing. But does anybody agree with me that the 6 hitters and 7 fielders is stupid?
I just changed that on the fly only because there was a few people that were on that call that complained.
I'm not.
No, I'm explaining for people that don't know the whole story that weren't on the call.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I on the fly when we were discussing it on that conference call when I proposed this rule change, a handful of the offensive teams were like worried about sticking a batter that wasn't worthy of their lineup. They didn't want to bat 7 people if that batter was not going to carry his weight and be an automatic out every time through or something like that. I said, I'll do anything to get that 7th man on the field for defense. So I don't care if we change the rule right now because everyone's paying. I'm proposing the rule, so I'm allowed to change it. Let's say 7 men on D, 6 men batting. That's how that came up to appease the offensive people.
Real quick, to appease me, players, not men, players. We're a co-ed sport.
My bad. I didn't mean to say. I didn't mean it as far as men or women. I just meant.
No, I understand, but
you meant human.
Whitney, Whitney, hold your question, please. I want Danny to finish his point because I interrupted him, but let Danny finish.
No, that was the point, though. I just tried to appease the people that were offensively. That was like, so I tried to change on the fly to get my 7th man on defense in there. That's why it came up as a conversation point.
And when I was saying it was ridiculous, I for the audience to know, I knew Danny didn't want it that way. That's just the way he had to. That was the only way they were going to let him squeeze it through, if at all. So go ahead.
And it still didn't work.
Go ahead, Whitney.
So when playing, from what I have understood, if you're gonna do the 6 defense and the 7 batters, shouldn't, or vice
The other way around.
versa.
Yeah,
It should be equal both ways.
I agree.
But like you said, if there's a player that's not pulling its weight and you have an extra player, why don't you take that player out and put another player in? Somebody that's gonna put their weight in. Because it's not fair to say, well, even though I'm batting, I'm not gonna put my this or that because I'm gonna bat anyway. You need to make it fair. If somebody's gonna pull their weight, switch that other person and put somebody that is gonna pull their weight that wants to play, because it's only fair that everybody at least tries to get a chance to play, even if it's defense or if it's batting. How I see it.
Well,
I mean, I could be wrong.
Fair.
But
no, you're not right or wrong. But in the end, that's not a rule. That's every team runs their team the way they run it. There's nothing we could do about that. So, I mean, you make a good point. I don't disagree with you, but you're not right or wrong. It's just that teams run their teams the way they run it. There's nothing. That's a whole different show, I guess.
Yeah, there are teams that have 15 players that don't go past their top 6 just because they're there to win, and they don't. The other people there to just sit on the bench and be cheerleaders because the top 6 are only going to play every inning because that's all they care about is winning. So,
in all fairness, the 3 of us have played on many of those teams. So
I'm just pointing out. Well, she had made a point that she said everyone should get to play and all that stuff.
Yeah.
That's not the mentality of certain teams. So I was
having fun, D-Fop.
trying to help her out over there. She's new to the game. I'm trying to explain certain situations to her.
I'm up for learning new stuff, so I'm up for learning.
That's why I was explaining it out. Neil's just trying to run roughshod over you.
Neil has some.
A lot of issues. Not some. A lot of issues. I got a lot of issues, Whitney. So Danny and Seth,
we love each and every one of them.
Well, I don't have a lot else. I don't really have anything else on the rule stuff. Anybody else?
No, it's pretty much. Well,
it would be great to do. We need more defense. We need more defense. 7 players. Pull the bases back to like 104. That extra step. knock down
something.
things out, and then and hopefully we can get the base, the scoring and the defense back in some sort of whack. Because it's beatball is a slightly boring sport, man. I'm just saying,
It can be when you can be when you're on the end of getting your ass whooped from a better pitcher. Definitely, it's a little more fun when you're doing the whipping as opposed to being the whip.
Exactly.
All right. Well, here is as good a time as any. We're gonna wrap this up talking to Danny about his long, illustrious career, because he says that it is time to hang him up. That's it, D-Fop? No more cleats?
Yeah, I've said it probably half a dozen times in my career.
No,
maybe 20.
No.
Yeah, I've been playing since '84. It's been 36 years. And I'm just not really into putting the work that I normally put in to be ready to play this game at the level I expect of myself. So it's time to step away from it. I love the game. It'll always be many great friends, many great memories, and it's just time to move on and do something different.
I'd like to point out to our audience, there have been, there's a few what we call kind of beatball dynasties. The Albuquerque True Side is one. Danny won a championship with them. The West Coast Dogs is another. Danny has won many championships with the Dogs. And the Austin Blackhawks, clearly another. He has helped them win championships. He helped Kansas get, they have one or two?
They have one. Just one. Yeah. I actually fell short with the Blackhawks. I wasn't on the team when they won.
I don't think that he won one.
Oh
no, I came in second a few times with them. We lost to Taiwan twice.
I said that last night. You couldn't correct me last night.
I just thought about it when you said it. It just in my head. I won my other third team was Kansas All Stars.
You've played so many tournaments with the Hawks. I can't believe you didn't win a championship with them.
No, I played 5 years with them and came in second like three or four times.
Well, over the years, because you and Seth and I, the first year we played together was in '93, so we go back a long ways.
God, was it '93?
Yeah,
'93. We were
Sacramento Thrashers.
The Thrashers, yeah, we were Thrashers the first time, yeah.
Yeah,
the Thrashers.
The only appearance my original team ever made at the World Series, '93 World Series, the Sacramento Thrashers, and then we were the Dogs from there on. But I have three times when I think of you, D-Fop, that really stand out to me. One, because the first time you came out here and stayed with us to practice, you stayed with me, and we were getting Chili's delivered, and that was back when they had those commercials, Chili's baby back ribs.
Yeah, baby.
And you and I we were ordering, we were getting baby back ribs and wings. We probably ordered like 2 or 3 times before the World Series. And then all through, like the whole 2 weeks, we had all the time, barbecue sauce, chili, constantly singing that song. But then my other memory, is, another one is in '98. This involves you, Seth Dog. One thing the Dogs were good about going back to the '90s is at the end of the day, a lot of us would take ice baths to get our legs fresh for the next day. And we were all dicks about it in the sense that as soon as we do somebody's taking an ice bath, we go fill up a bucket full of ice and go dump it on them just to get it worse. I think Seth Dog dropped about an ice chest on me one time. But I called over to Seth's room and we found out he was taking an ice bath, and Danny and I were together, and I had a key to your room, and we got all giddy. And we filled up like, I don't even know, a garbage can or something.
I don't know what we used, but it was a lot.
Yeah, we were all excited. We started to go with like just a little ice bucket. Like, oh, you know what? We should do this. We run back to the room and we go back to the ice machine and spend like 5 minutes filling up this garbage can or something. We'd go run into your room, and Christina barred the room because you knew it was coming. We couldn't even get in. Oh, we were so disappointed. We were like, finally, we're going to get the big dog. Nope, you knew it was coming. You had
he had her security on site there.
Yeah, my key didn't even get us in, man.
He had Christina trained to protect him.
But my last story, it's just, I wasn't even there for this, but I've always found it hilarious just to picture. So in 2000, the World Series is in Taiwan, and we stayed in this beautiful hotel. It's called the Grand Hotel. I think Greg Parra told me at that time it's like one of the 10th nicest hotels in the whole world. Which for Danny and I who were there, you're probably not surprised to hear that, Danny. That place was amazing, right? Where we stayed.
No, phenomenal. Yeah, and he had the club at the top floor too, and the gym
that's exactly where I'm going. So it's like 16 floors, wasn't it? Something like that.
Yeah, 16. Yeah, it was up there. Something like maybe 20.
The very top floor is a complete gym, but it's divided. It's gym, and there's like an area for like spas and hot tubs and all that stuff. But where their hot tubs were, they had like a hot, a medium.
Yeah, three in a row.
Yeah,
one was hot. It was like an ice bath, medium temperature, and a hot tub. Three in a row. And people would jump the walls.
The ice bath was worse than anything I ever experienced in a hotel bathtub. I'll tell you that. It was like being dropped in the Arctic Ocean. It was crazy. But so it's divided. There's a men's side and a women's side, and you cannot wear clothes. And so we're all totally blind, and the people who are there to assist you don't speak English. And Danny and Vic Allen that played with us, go up there to take an ice bath. And so they're bumping around, totally blind, looking for, trying to get to where the ice bath is. They're totally naked. You got Danny.
No. Let me cut you short for a second.
But let me give a quick description. That's all.
But let me set the scene right.
Well, I know, but I want to give them you and Vic. You got Danny at 5'4", and Vic is 6'3", with like a ponytail and tattoos. So go ahead, set the rest.
So we went up there to go in the ice bath, and there was someone there that spoke like broken English. And they go, you have to get totally naked. And we're like, come on. I mean, like, we didn't believe it. Like, we were like almost not arguing. We were like, no, you're lying to two blind guys. It's like, no, you really do got to. So now we're both totally undressed. And they go, now you got to take a shower before you go into our tubs. So they had a whole row of these hoses that you could stand there and hose yourself off like. And they also had wooden stools set all around them. So I went to the stool, and I slide mine aside, and I start hosing myself off. And all of a sudden I hear Vic sit down on the stool. So I go, Vic, what are you doing? So you know whose ass has been on that stool? He jumped up so fast and bounced off the wall. We were laughing like two little schoolgirls, like just laughing, like unbelievable. The funniest experience I think I've ever had in my life.
The part that's always made me laugh is just the thought of you, like the two of you naked, like bumping around together.
Well, no, he kept going, don't touch me. I was like, calm down. It was hysterical. It was a lot of fun.
You got any thoughts, Seth, dog?
No.
This guy out on? No, you're done?
I don't. No, I mean, I was thinking, obviously, right, the funniest time with Danny Foppiano was not on the b-ball field whatsoever, but
dinner?
At Houston's restaurant in San Francisco. When Danny came out to get his guy.
I got roasted. Yeah. It was a Danny Foppiano roast.
Danny had gone on the Howard Stern show.
That was funny.
1998.
Yeah, right. To
1998.
get naked for Howard Stern, and he was fulfilling a dream, right? Howard Stern.
Yeah, I wanted to get on Howard Stern. It was a big out. Yeah, my
Yeah,
premise was I'm blind, and I don't know what I look like, and I want to know if I can get into Playgirl.
Yeah, exactly.
So I got to go in and get naked,
yeah,
and
but in the end,
funny.
whatever. I mean, in the end, that was whatever it was. But that kind of just set the scene for our dinner that night. 4 or 5.
Yeah, I was in San Rafael getting a seeing eye dog. I graduated that class and met you guys in San Francisco, and
right.
I wish I stayed home.
Yeah, dude, it was the most fun night, man.
There was no part of that interview on Howard Stern that we didn't revisit 5 times.
I think you guys got the transcript. You guys are like line for line. You were ripping. Oh, that was some funny shit.
Dude, that was before Sirius XM, and Howard Stern was not in Sacramento, so Seth had recorded that for me. He never would give me the recording because he said I would just be too harsh with it. he literally, honest to God, he would not.
Thank you, Seth.
He had your back. He would not give me a copy of that recording.
You didn't have my back that night, but I appreciate that.
Yeah, that was quite fun.
And the only other, not the only other thing, right? Danny and I go way back. Danny and I used to listen to the Cowboy games together or whatever. But, a random thing that I think about is when we were in 2001, I don't even know where we were, Strongsville or whatever.
Ohio, yeah.
And we were all hanging out in the room, kind of just partying or whatever. Maybe it was done or whatever. And Danny went to go sit on the bed. And he missed the bet. And he just ran right into the wall or whatever, and he just started laughing and stuff. I always remember that, man.
And we all hit a wall or two in our day.
Yeah. And throughout all my memory problems over the next decade or whatever, I always remember Danny Fop.
Oh, it's so funny. I had no plan of bringing this up, but Danny saying hitting a wall and it having to do with Danny's name. In 1995, after we got knocked out of the tournament, we partied, most of the teams party hard afterwards, whatever. It was late in the night on like Friday night. And our spotter, Chris Hunsucker, was hammered. And I think it was Mike Finn and I were walking it back to his room, and he literally fell out of our hands, face down passed out face down on the floor. And he broke his glasses.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was crazy. He woke up in the morning and
Oh, he said that. He carried with him, right?
Yeah. He didn't remember what happened. He calls me up. He's like, all right, I'm very blurry on what happened last night. Like, he's got bandage. We had to take him, get him bandaged up or whatever. He's got a big bandage on his head. His glasses are broken. He's like, now, I'm blurry on what happened. But I remember Danny hit me. Why Danny hit me? Danny wasn't even there, dude. Please, you hit yourself.
I do remember that. That's just funny shit.
Yeah, I forgot about that. That was good.
What's funny is Hunsucker never told his wife how he broke his glasses. So I hope he doesn't watch the show because she knows now.
That's awesome.
Well, Danny,
and then of course, let me just say, and then there was the classic of knocking on Danny's door, saying, "Oh, Neil, no, we're just gonna chill, no drama tonight," and having Danny and Vic's door fly open with Danny saying, "Vic's trying to kill me," and all hell just breaking loose.
Oh, that's right. He was freaking drunk as a skunk. He was grabbing me and trying to wrestle me. I was like, "Get off me!" I was like, I remember that.
He was bleeding. We walk into a room and Danny is trying to get away from Vic. Vic is bleeding.
We should not. We can't even dive into all of that, but that was right after we had just won our third championship in the world in a row, and for different reasons, we never had a real team blowout after the first two, like all of us together, and. Seth and I, we had that night all prepared, ready to go. And Seth is just saying as we were walking walking away from the banquet, Seth just say like, man, you know, if we're all finally just gonna have that blowout, no drama, and then here you come bust out your room, Vic's gonna kill me.
Vic's sitting there crying, Daddy, why'd you punch me, man? I had to save my life, dude. What are you talking about, man?
Yeah, it was hysterical. I have one last one before we go.
Yes.
Remember the year it was Oklahoma and I don't know what year
98.
Oklahoma was.
Yeah,
It was 98.
Yeah.
Okay, 98. When
Same
I
way
had
tried to get Seth in the ice bath.
okay, I remember I trained before I came out to you guys, and I was doing sprints in the football field, and I ran to that bench and cut my leg open.
I almost brought that up.
Yeah, I cut my leg open, and then I finished doing my sprints the whole time. My blood's running down my leg the whole time. I go home, my mother goes, "What the hell did you do, you idiot?" She kind of cleaned it up, and about 5 weeks later, I come out to California for team practice before we went to the World Series, and a ground ball got hit to me, and I dropped on it, and I felt like someone shot me in my leg. I had like an infection little sac in that shin, and it exploded in my leg.
I had to take Daddy to the hospital.
I had to go to the hospital. I got checked in for 4 days. They had to run intravenous in me, and the guy was digging out this. He cut it open. He's digging the stuff out, and stuff's coming out of there. And he squeezed. Like 20 minutes later, I'm sweating. My blood pressure's up. Who knows what? And the doctor tells me, he goes, "Wow, you're a pretty tough guy. Most people ask for to be put out for this." I go, "You didn't give me the option." This guy's squeezing this infection out of my leg the whole time.
Yeah, no,
That's crazy.
I was gonna tell that story, but I didn't want to give you too much credit. But you did man up, like, and for the audience, like what Danny used to do. He lived right. He had a high school behind him, and he would go up. He'd like put a radio at one end and a beep ball at another, and he'd run sprints back and forth. So he goes up, he sets up his radio, and he's running his first sprint to go set the beep ball at the other end. And somebody put one of those metal football benches in the middle of the field, and he hit it at full tilt, man, and bam, busted his leg.
No, I got really lucky that my leg happened to be coming up and hit the top of it. And if I had a video, I would have won the $10,000 because I literally hit the bench and slid the length of the bench on the bench, like I was sailing, and landed like 10 feet past the bench because I was on my stomach on the bench and went flying over it. I would have laughed if I wasn't bleeding.
Where I got to give him credit. I mean, like he said, he got that bad infection, right? Literally just days before the World Series. Like he got out of the hospital maybe 2 days before we flew.
No, I remember I checked myself out. He goes, "I'll advise you going." I go, "My team's going to Oklahoma. What do I do? Stay here? I'm going." I signed myself out. They gave me these gauze pads of soak in some kind of solution to pack in the little hole I had in my leg.
Yeah, big
and I went out and bought a shin guard.
I could put my whole big finger in that hole. It wasn't little. It was big.
Yeah, no, and I went out and bought a shin guard and played with it.
Yeah. No, that's where I was gonna say, man. You never missed a practice. You never missed a game. So thumbs up, man. Thumbs up to your career, dude. Honestly,
I appreciate it, guys. Yeah, it was always fun times, for the most part.
There are not a ton of players that I put among the best two-way players. Like I personally consider Eric the best of the best. But man, you're in the argument. Like there are other people you could argue were as good as him or better than him offensively, but there are just not many players. Eric Rodriguez now, but over the years, to me, there just aren't many players that you could argue could be as good as Eric all the way around. But you're right there. I mean,
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Very nice.
You're an amazing all-around player. Great
appreciate
speed,
that.
Great power. Just think what you could have been if you would have got rid of that mitt, dude. Oh, that was a joke. God.
No,
Uncle Leo.
I needed that mitt. It was a comfort thing.
I thought Seth would at least laugh a little bit. Nah.
Well, not the mitt.
Yeah.
I was thinking I could hear John Parker. Well, what about me?
Oh, I won't go there. I appreciate that.
Great offensive player. Great offensive player.
Period. Stop.
Hey, Whitney, thank you for indulging us here, and thank you so much for volunteering to come on. And when I reach out and ask for volunteers, 99.9% of the people are too chicken to come on. So thank you for jumping in, helping us out.
Always.
You're welcome.
Nice to have a conversation with you too, Whitney. Brittany, Vanessa, whatever your name is. I'll tease you.
Yeah. So, Vanessa Foreman, I'll let the Wool Committee know you're interested in playing with them. Little combining all my wrong names as a joke. But I am going to reach out to my friends, ask them to get in touch with you. And for everybody else, Seth, you got any closing?
No closing.
Why you sound angry?
Because, man, now I got to go back to real world, man.
All right.
Fun. We've had a fun time, been able to laugh, and now I got to go back to the stressful real world.
All right.
Yes.
All right, everybody, stay safe, and great talking, everybody.
And you know what? Night. The greatest news is Delaney. I almost called Danny Delaney. The Cowboys aren't playing tomorrow, man. So.
Nothing better than a week off.
Can't possibly lose.
Yeah, exactly. Nothing have to watch a debacle.
I wish the NBA give my Sacramento Kings buys during the year, so I can take the night off of losing.
Yeah, well, my Knicks are much better, so.
Yeah, right. All right, everybody. We have
have a great night, guys.
Enough. Thank you, everybody. I'm not sure what we will be doing next week, but we will be doing it here with you. So be smart, be safe, wear a mask, be considerate. We love you, and we will see you next week. Good night, Aunt Cindy.